we up? Are we up? Are we up? Are we up? Yeah. All right, cool. Welcome to another episode of this live design. Usually interrupted by my terrible internet. That is something that I hope that we can get sorted out as we proceed, doing this on a regular basis every weekday at 7 p.m. Central African time. That is. Let me take down this cool royalty-free lo-fi hip-hop that I'm playing in the background. Just trying out, different things. I'm back to my normal webcam today. I hope the stream will go better and things are a little bit smoother. Again, welcome to the live streaming session. If it is your first time here, this is a design streaming session where we chill around and speak about different design topics from, portfolios, UX design careers. And today we'll be talking about UX design within Agile environment teams, and if within an Agile environment or an Agile team, then this is something that you might want to attend fully and interact with us in the chat section. It might be a little bit laggy to answer your question after a minute or so. You might see me looking this side. I'm just trying to monitor everything that's happening here, and yeah, that is how it goes. So let's jump right into it without, taking too much time today. I think the topic today is something that has affected me quite a bit in my career personally, because I found myself in more and more agile environments as I've worked more in corporate gigs. So sort of like over the past 5-6 years of my career, I've worked mainly in corporate before I, sort of like quit to start this Do Better UX thing and other startup ideas that I want to push as well. So having said that, in corporate environments where people are building software, you'll come across a thing called Agile. Now, if you've never been if you're new to the term and you've never heard of it before, Agile is a software terminology that is used by a lot of companies and sometimes even a lot of startups. We're seeing a lot of those starting to adopt, the methodology, but basically, it's a certain way of working, which is, not the typical waterfall, which is probably like, if you don't know what Agile is, you're probably living in a waterfall world where, you do user research for a couple of, months, and then you get into design, and then you get into, the finally, handing over to development, and then they'll do the work. But within the Agile environment, things work. We're talking about how to navigate that world as a UX designer, because, the rules in apply differently and, sort of like work differently as well. So having said that, this is always a difficult, well, in my case at least, I don't know about yours. Please do let me know if you might have had different scenarios, but I'm going to share my personal experience today around this. It has always been a difficult thing to mix up the two worlds, the Agile delivery world and the UX design world, because I think the objectives are different. Within the Agile delivery world, working software is the most important thing, and making progress on that, and actually delivering a piece of work. A delivery method is not a research method or a design method, and usually UX design is done before that, and the UX work to the Agile guys, and to the Agile dev guys, and those guys sort of like move quickly and deliver on that thing, or sometimes it's done at the end, right? Like a software development company can go into developing a product and only to realize that people are not using it, or it's not as effective as they thought it would be, and then that way they would hire a UX design agency to come and UX the product, right? Or scenario might be in your case, or terminology that you like there. But having said that, that is basically the almost like the default setup that you find within agile environments and within the UX environments, and how they don't mix. It's almost like water and oil in most cases. But there are ways, to really bring the worlds together and be able to do iterative research within the agile environment that you're working with. So yeah, there are principles within the within the agile. So maybe if I can just switch to my screen quickly here. As you can see here, I don't know if this is big enough. Let's see if I can actually go to the website. But basically, there's a design phase. There's a, let's see if this one is a little bit clearer. There's an evaluate phase, there's a meet phase, there's a plan phase, there's a design phase, there's a develop and a test phase. But these don't happen in the typical sense that we know, UX design to be in. In a UX design world, you might be looking at a more design thinking type of, you might be looking more at a design thinking type of progress, process, where you have, something like this. Let's see if this loads up quickly. Where you have, some, empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test, and get results quickly before you, jump onto developing the full-fledged product. So there are similarities around, the different, the two different processes. But having said that, it's really difficult to marry the two most of the time, and it's one of those things that you really need to either have had the experience and lived through it and try to apply UX design within the software development environment, or you have learned it in some way prior to you getting into the environment. But if you're already in it, which I'm assuming that in this you're UX designing in some sort of agile environment, whether you're just starting or you've been there for some time and you just want to sharpen your skills and find out that people are using to navigate this space in, then then you're in the right place. Cool. So one of the biggest things that you need to get right off the bat is familiarizing yourself with terminology. There's a lot of that you find out there, things like Kanban, things like Scrum, let me see. So I think you getting, versed with the terminology helps you understand the conversations that are happening, and when people throw in words and design and different things within meetings and stuff, so to have intelligent conversations, right? And smart conversations as well. You don't want to sound out of context, and you don't want, when people talk about an acceptance criteria, you look a whole, weird and that. So there's a whole glossary and terminology. If you just, look at, if you search agile terminology, there's a website called Agile Alliance that has got, a whole glossary of agile terminology that you can find out there. Knock yourself out to a resource like that, where you can really learn the agile terminology before you get into conversations with agile people who are going to be throwing terms at you, okay, maybe you might know MVP, minimum viable product, but there's things here, like acceptance testing, automated build, backlog is as a big one. Backlog grooming, what is a what do they mean when they say, backlog grooming, burn down chart, business agility, collective ownership. So this is quite a cool resource of of all this terminology that people within this different world of delivery live in. So things like Kanban board. There's also Scrum board, and etc etc etc, right? There's so much terminology within this. I think some of it is actually shared, things like personas, from some of the UX world, and you might also be familiar with some of the things like, backlog if you're in product design, or doing other work like that. But yeah, there are some that are really specific to agile environments only, and I would suggest that you want to know what a story is, what is story writing, what is story mapping, what is a sprint, what is sprint planning, what is a retro, what is that kind of thing. These are actual terms that people within the agile environment are using, and you can get lost pretty quickly if you don't know what these terms mean, or you don't understand them, and you're not versed in them, and you might actually sound like you don't know what you're doing within an agile environment if you can't speak to some of these terms and what they mean, and put them in the right places and context, right? So know your terminology, have context, speak the language. At least speak the language if you want to live in that world, right? To be able to influence. So that is the first thing. If you're starting up as a UX designer within an agile environment or an agile team, learn agile terminology. I just showed you a great Agile Alliance, but basically looked up agile terminology. There's a lot of resources that you can find that can help you know what these things are, and even see what some of them are, because some of them are processes, right? It's not just terminology, like what is a retro, what is story writing. It's not just descriptors of things, it's also descriptors of some of the within this agile delivery space. So learn the language so that you can influence and manipulate the conversation in the way that you want. The next up is that this won't be your typical UX project, right? So you won't have the time and sort of like the leeway to what can I say? You won't have the time and the leeway to go in there and just do your UX stuff, typical UX project, where you would go in and empathize and define what the thing is, and ideate and prototype and all of that good stuff that we would do in other design thinking type of scenarios. Having said that, there are ways where and methods where UX is required. So like I said earlier on, within the agile process, there's also a good in the stages where you do the define, the evaluation, the development and stuff. But within the define and evaluate phase, which is sort of like usually done right at the beginning. It's not anyway that I've seen. It's usually done it right at the beginning. It's not an ongoing process, of which I think that is the way you can embed UX design within these agile environments, by actually using this define, evaluating, defining, prototyping and evaluating. Those three things are the things that you really need to be able to influence enough to bring within the process. So if you can get at least the leeway to work, usually what happens is that in more ideal cases is that the designers are working a sprint forward, So that is about 2 weeks ahead of the development guys, so that way the designers can go in and do sort of like defining and unpacking what the problem is, the problem space is, who the users are, come up with the prototype, do some user testing and all of that good stuff, and hand over to the developers. But there's even a better way to do this, right? By making sure that involved within the loop. I know there's a thing called death by alignment. I definitely don't want everyone to be everyone's time to be consumed by UX research and sitting in user research interviews and stuff. It doesn't make sense to take developer resources or other important parts of the team and put them in that situation where they're wasting their time doing unnecessary UX stuff that you could be doing with a smaller team of 1 or 2 people, your team. So having said that, you really need to incorporate and influence the conversation of how you're gonna do that and position it and sell it. I've never been in a team where it's easy to just easily implement UX in a typical agile environment. It's almost a pre or post thing. So it's either you do it before, you do your research and whatever, you hand over to developers, or developers do their thing and you come in and beautify it, which is not ideal, right? So able to go in there, facilitate the conversation, which brings us to the next conversation that we're gonna have tomorrow, or is it Friday? One of the two. Check out our upcoming events for the rest of the week, and if you're not already, please do consider subscribing if you like this type of content and you would like to chill out with me every day at 7 p.m. Central African time and geek out with me on different design topics. So going back to it, within you want to be able to facilitate those conversations, the problem solving conversations that are happening, because as much as people are trying to build software and move fast with everything, they still question somebody who actually needs to be able to provide a facilitation role and problem solve some of the things that are happening there. Right now, there are skills that are within the agile environment where people can do these things, but I think you can bring your own flair, right, with the things like lightning decision gems and other cool design thinking type of processes that you can bring into the mix of things and be able to influence that conversation, so that you have the leeway to have a little bit more time and influence within the project, right? So like I said, within agile environments, working software is more important than anything else. That is what they are measured on, what the delivery is about. When we're talking delivery, we're talking about working software, right? So it's not, agile teams are not measured on how much research they've done. They're measured on how much percentage of working software did they actually have coming out within the time frame of the project that they have. So having said that, there's usually a lot of pressure to churn out the code and put out the features. You need to, if you're a UX designer and you are within this space, the first thing that you need to learn how to do is to have conversations and sort of like find the right people to speak to, the right people that you need to influence, and help those people solve their problems. And that way you can sort of like get buy-in with your process as a UX designer, and sort of like the value that you bring. If you can sit in the brainstorming session that is actually successful, and you come out of there with a solution and sort of like prototyped solution that you can go and validate the next day and come back with feedback and say, what guys, I spoke to X amount of people and this is the amount of feedback that I got into, then definitely you will get the buy-in of UX design within the process, and you might even be able to embed it basis solving, so you will have more buy-in and people coming to sit in brainstorming workshops with you. You have more buy-in in the process. You have more buy-in in people actually listening to the things that you have to say and suggest that they should do. So again, it's not about coming up with the ideas, but it's about the processes that help people unpack these ideas, right? So yeah, it's a very interesting environment to work. It's the fastest way and best way to build software and manage any software development process. I just think that there actually just needs to be a little bit more of the UX work, more of empathy applied in agile environments. I think there's so much sort of like speak about speed and delivery of the software that usually I've seen it multiple times that we see the UX being left behind, or sort of like being left for right at the end. So having said that, I'm interested to know if you are a UX designer, and if you're watching this, have you started recently working on an agile team or on an agile project? Is it something that you are doing on an everyday basis, and you're also finding some of the issues that I've found over the years of UX being left right at the end, or done prior to the thing and never looked at again, so sort of like you have your personas and all your research tucked away. Once we get to the point where we have some journeys and some features defined in stories, then we're happy to go. So what is your situation? What is your world? Are you just interested in finding out what agile in UX is? Also, I want to know, where are you from? What type of projects do you work on, and how do you find these two worlds mixing together? It's a very interesting thing to me, because not everybody that I speak to is familiar with what agile is, and I sort of like have to explain that, okay, there's this process of making software and etc. And it's a very interesting idea. I think even more designers and UX consulting houses and firms should look into how can we make this world more favorable for UX to be applied. A world where UX is sort of like taken with a little bit more consideration, and given enough space for it to actually bring the value that it brings within this agile delivery space. A lot of companies started adopting agile just before UX, and then UX came, and then it sort of like overlapped over each other, and over time I think we started seeing different versions and methodologies and ways of doing things that still don't mix quite well, but and keep going through and keep on doing the thing that we do, so that we deliver the products that we need to deliver. But I think if we can optimize and have more of this conversation, and optimize better this world of UX design and agile environments, there's so much overlap, yet there's so much distance in between. Or is it just me? Maybe it's just me. Please do let me know if it's just me. If you'd like to join the conversation after this, and you feel like maybe just leaving the comments in the chat section might be a little bit shallow, join us. We've got a community over at LinkedIn. Join us. Just look up Do Better UX. You'll probably find that. I hope there's nobody who's spamming us yet, with a fake page and other things like that. But you also find, you definitely, please do join the group if you're interested in having these conversations and sort of like getting regular updates around, the different things that we do. We also do sort of like private session web classes where we cover, more in-depth stuff around getting into UX design, taking your UX career to the next level by doing things like facilitation and design sprints. We talk about, different type of things. So we are also very, close to launching our website, which is going to, be a place where you can find everything in one place. We've taken some time because we've been trying to find, the right people to work with, the right, things to really put together and make everything work. Please look out for that. It should be out, at the end of this week. Hopefully, crossing my fingers. Hope that will work, and I hope today's stream, even the recording after, I know this is terrible because of the poor connection and all of that stuff. Definitely, there's a lack of the baby in the background today that makes me not crying, and also that she did my live streaming session. So very happy about that. I hope that it was valuable to you. And if you're interested in more of this type of sessions, I do go live every weekday at 7 p.m. Central African time. I understand that might not be, an ideal time wherever you are in the world, but you have the privilege to always come and watch the replays on YouTube as we do every day. So yeah, feel free to drop in, and please do consider subscribing if this is, your cup of tea or your conversation that you might want to be involved in and learn more, or just, want to relax and chill and, maybe listen to and not even, look at my face or, look at what I'm talking about on the screen. So you could treat this like, sort of like a podcast. I don't know, but we do have a real podcast if you are into podcasts. We've got a podcast called Not a UX Designer. You can check it out wherever you listen to your podcast at, whether Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, I don't know, wherever you should be able to find Not a UX Designer by Farima Henry, which is me. But again, look out for the website later on this week. You should be able to find all of those things, upcoming events, podcast episodes. We're gonna move more having on my personal website, talking about UX design and all of these things that we're talking about on this channel. We're gonna move them over there and sort of like try and get more of a frequent blogging sequence going on. And if you actually want to be part of the team of the Do Better UX community, or almost like the administrators of the community, feel free to reach out to me. Please let me know if you're interested in helping out anywhere, whether it's emailers or whatever it is that you think you can drive and bring. So feel free to reach out. We are always looking at growing our team, looking for people that can help out other UX designers that are starting out there. So yeah, having said that, I think today's conversation was a very spicy one for me. I think rather short. I'm looking at the time here. We just hitting that 31-minute mark. I see the actual live stream is hitting around the 32-minute mark. So yeah, I think it was good chilling. It was a good topic. I think it was a very personal one to me. Again, I'd like to know what your experience has been. Leave a comment, join our LinkedIn group. Check me out on Twitter, anything. Really interested to know what your UX Agile experience has been. What are some of the tips that you would like to share with some of the people out there, that they can use to navigate that world a little bit better? I shared a little bit of mine on this one. I think I could have went more in depth, but I didn't want to get into crazy details. But yeah, terminology, learn how to influence the right people, identify the right people within the teams, just help people solve things better, and like don't just attend meetings and be there, and be sort of like, the afterthought of what UX is. Try and, bring UX design to the forefront so that you're able to influence the conversation going forth. So having said that, I think that is today's one. It was a good one. I hope that I see you guys tomorrow, geeking out with me on the next one. Till then, peace out.